Hey guys, my name is Phillips and I wanna go over my Dune ramp deck. It's a 4-colored deck containing white, black, red and green, and it uses Cultivate to fix those colors and also help you ramp into the big bombs and those 4 colors. For cards, first off we have 3 Wall of Omens. Early game, great blocker. Late game, it was your card so it replaces itself. Next up we have Baneslayer Angel. You can only play one of those, but it's a great card, basically goes in every white deck ever. Then we have 2 Planar Cleansing, one of the 2 only sweepers in Duels 2015. It also clears enchantments and artifacts, so it's a great way to just get rid of everything your opponent has. For black we have 2 Shadow Graveborn Muse, 4 mana 3/3, in your upkeep you lose a life, draw a card, great card advantage engine. Shadowborn Demon, 5 mana, 5/6. It's basically a removal that sticks around for a turn to block something in case your opponent attacks. Shieldred, just insane. If it sticks, your opponent sacrifices a creature every turn. You get one from Geralt back into play every single turn. Insane card. Runescar Demon, it's a 7 mana 6/6 flyer, but it also tutors a card from your deck. So this guy gets you whatever you want. You need a cheap removal, or a sweeper, or direct damage to finish your opponent off. You can get it with this card. Banefire, you only run one off. You use this to finish off your opponent when he doesn't have as much left anymore. And your opponent cannot prevent the damage, and he cannot counter Banefire if you pay 6 or more mana for it. So it's a really sure way to kill your opponent unless he has instant speed life gain, which isn't very common. Next up we have the other one, the other sweeper. Anger of the Gods does 3 damage to each creature, and if the creature would die this turn you exile it instead. This is great because most of your creatures survive the Anger of the God damage, while you can clear out all the tokens, all the aggro decks, all the utility creatures of other decks. You can only play 2, but it's still really good. Here we have 2 Resounding Thunder. I only play 2 because I don't want too much removal in the deck. This card has the flexibility of either dealing 3 damage, for 3 mana it's instant speed, or 6 damage, for 8 mana it's instant speed and also drawing you a card. It's similar in Banefire in the way that it can't be countered if you pay a lot of mana into it, but its benefit is that it draws a card. However, its downside is that it isn't as flexible in how much damage it does, so you may just need 4 damage, but you don't have 8 mana yet. Sometimes Banefire is better, sometimes Resounding Thunder is better. Some have decided to run 1 Banefire and 2 Resounding Thunder, just because Resounding Thunder is usually the better creature removal, but Banefire just can kill your opponent from like 10 or more life. And lastly for red we have Inferno Titan, the only creature in red. When it comes to the play, it does 3 damage to split as you choose, so you can kill smaller creatures if your opponent does the same when it attacks, so it acts as quasi removal. Another benefit aside of bidding a 6/6 for 6 is you can give it fire. It has fire breathing, so you can spend red mana to increase its attack. So it's incredibly dangerous for your opponent to leave this up, especially if you cannot block it, because it just deals so much damage. For green we have 2 Genesis Hydra. It's a flexible mana cost card, so you can play like 5 mana to get a 3/3, but you can also spend 9 or more mana to get a huge creature. Alongside, it brings another creature from your library into play, and it does so regardless of if Genesis Hydra gets countered or not. Then we have 4 Elfish Visionary. Early game it's something to play, maybe takes out a token for you. Late game it replaces itself, so no harm done. Here's the key card of the deck, Cultivate. You obviously run 4 of those. Fixes your land, ramps you into bombs, key card. And finally for green we have Palaka Worm. You play 3 of these because it's great against pretty much everything. It comes into play, gains you 7 life, which is great against aggro decks. If your opponent removes it, you usually draw a card, which makes it great against control decks. And also a pretty good finisher. Because of trample, your opponent can't just jump block it, so it can end games. And the last and biggest creature is Kozilek. When you cast this, you draw 4 cards, so even if your opponent counters it, you still get those 4 cards. And with Enlight of Fear, your opponent usually can't afford this guy to stick around, because having to sacrifice 4 permanents every single turn just is insane. For multicolored, we have 2 Treasured Finds. For 2 extra mana, this card becomes whatever you need. Remove a spell, a sweeper, or another threat. But you don't want to play more than 2 of those, because you don't have anything that shuffles card into your graveyard. So you can only get back what you've already played, so early game this doesn't do anything for you. And finally we have Ground Assault. 3 of those, because it's probably the best single target removal in the game, especially since we are playing a ramp deck. It's really efficient because for 2 mana you basically kill whatever you want. Next up we go to the lands. I am playing 3 plains, 2 swamps, 2 mountains and 4 forests. This is just to make sure we can fix our colors with Cultivate. And then we also run 12 of the tricolored lands. This really helps out with our color base, and them coming into play tapped isn't that big of a deal. Yeah, and that's the deck.